Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society. My name is Logan Walsh, my pronouns are they, them, and I am a member of this congregation, and one of the ways I serve it is as a worship associate. Today I am joined by our co-senior minister, Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jackson, and by the worship team of Drew Collins, Linda Warren, Stephen Gregorius, and Daniel Carnes, as well as those volunteering as greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, lay ministers, and sound tech. And a special thank you to those singing with our Anybody choir today. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you are visiting us today, welcome. We are so very glad that you're here. If you would like more information about First Unitarian Society, please stop by the welcome table located in the Commons, just out the doors and to the left. We hope you will be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately after service, also in the Commons. For families with young children, the formal classes of our children's religious exploration are in recess for the summer. However, we continue to offer our message for all ages. There is still childcare available for very young children, and school-age children have the option of supervised play on our playground, along with opportunities for crafts and other activities. And of course, all ages of people are always welcome here in the auditorium throughout the service. For those connecting with us virtually today, we are glad that you are with us as well. And we hope you will be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn about upcoming programs and activities. With the beginning of July, our new fiscal year has begun. But our annual pledge campaign, the Free Will Giving, that provides most of the financial support which sustains our congregation, remains ongoing. If you haven't yet made a commitment for the year, if you're uncertain if you have, or just want to know more, please see our Cheryl Mellenthin, our Director of Stewardship, at her table in the Commons after the service. Following today's service, also, members of our social justice ministry teams will be filling out postcards for Wisconsin voters, encouraging them to vote no on both of the constitutional amendment ballot questions, which will appear on the ballot on August 13th. If you are looking for an opportunity to do something tangible in this fraught political season, or just interested in knowing more about why they are urging a no vote, they would love for you to join them. Also, this coming Thursday, July 25th, the Guardians of the Grounds are having a mulching party for Cynthia bushes just outside the building. For more details, please see the Red Floors newsletter. And on next Thursday, August 1st, our Climate Action team will be hosting a candidates forum for the open Dane County executive position, focused on environmental issues. Please plan to come, watch online, and/or tell your friends. More details, again, are in the Red Floors. And another announcement, in 2 weeks on August 4th, we will gather with the other two Madison UU congregations, James Reeb and Prairie, for a combined worship service. This will be held at Warner Park on the east side of Madison, so don't come here that day. There will be no worship service here that day. Stay tuned for more details. And now, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community. We come to this time and place.
Let us open our minds to the challenge of reason, to rediscover the wondrous gift of free religious community.
Open our hearts to the healing of love, to renew the faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life.
Open our lives to the calling of conscience, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and full heart.
Open our souls to the comfort of joy, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope.
Astonished by the miracle of life, with faith to face our challenges.
Grateful for that gift of fellowship with love that casts out fear.
Confident in the power of living faith with hope to trust tomorrow.
We are here gathered. We welcome this day for the gift it is, a reason for rejoicing.
And rekindle the vision of an earth made fair with all her people one. Come, let us worship together. And now I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do and join me in the words of aspiration for the kindling of our chalice flame. We ignite this flame, symbol of our faith, to beckon us into community, warm our hearts with love, and give us the light to follow as we carry our faith into action. And now I invite you to turn to those around you with signs of love and peace.
Good morning. Let's stand together and sing let's stay standing and sing together our opening hymn, number 1000, Morning Has Come. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes, we've seen that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
I agree. So now I'd like to invite forward anybody who wants to come up and join me for a story this morning. Well, hello. Thanks for coming down. It's good to see you. Hi. Thea. So, the story I have for you today there are different versions of it, maybe slightly different tellings from a lot of different places, but the version that I have for you comes most directly to us from Italy. And in this story, there is a prince, right? So like the child of the monarch in a certain locality. So there was a king. King has a son. The son is the prince. And the prince never smiled. I mean, never smiled. Year after year, day in, day out, every single day, just. Oh, but, so maybe we should like help with the fingers, right? You know. Did he ever do that? That's an interesting question. I don't know, because it didn't come up in the version of the story that I read. But that's it, maybe there are different solutions we could think about. You could, sort of act your way there. Try the physical act of smiling before you feel like smiling. See if that gets things jump-started. I like this strand we're on. Are there other ideas about what maybe could cheer up the prince? Other thoughts? Tell him a joke? Yeah, that's a good idea. That one I do know that they tried a lot of. Because do you know what a court jester is? Have you heard of that term before? Court jester is like a person whose whole job it is to be funny and entertaining for the king and the other people that like work around the king. And so the court jester, right, he tried all kinds of things. He told jokes, he did little dances, he did skits, he got out some puppets. He was all over the place trying to make the prince happy. Did not work. Yes, Thea? Show him something cute, like, for instance, an axolotl. I think that's a lovely idea. Given that the axolotl is an animal indigenous to a very specific part of Mexico, I do not think that in medieval Italy, where this story is set, they had access to them. And that's a crying shame, because maybe that would have worked on the prince. Any other thoughts about cheering up the prince? Other ideas? Yeah, Ray. Oh, okay, like surprise. I mean, because surprise, maybe it makes you happy, maybe it just makes you surprised, but it's at least a change, right? It's not just the whole time. But nothing worked. Everything they tried, nothing worked. So the king got together a whole group of very wise people, very sage advisors, and asked them, how can I cheer up my son? What can I do to make him smile? And after much thought and consultation and research, they said, what your son needs is to put on the shirt of a very happy man. Does this make sense to you? Yeah, me neither, but go with it. So the king was like, all right, well, that's the instruction from the royal advisors. We need to find a very happy man. We need to get his shirt, and then the prince can put it on, and the prince will be happy. So he sent some people out into the countryside, out in the wide, wide world, looking for a very happy man. And they found a merchant who was doing very well for himself. He was quite comfortable and well taken care of, seemed to enjoy his job. He had a good business, yes. Yes, don't be, I think I have multiple shirts. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but yes. So, but the idea was to get one of them, right? Maybe not the only one, but one, right? So they asked the merchant, I'm sorry? What if they only have rompers? Ah, you're reading ahead in the story, actually. So they asked the merchant, are you happy? He said, oh yes, I'm very happy. And they said, is there anything in your life that would make you happier? Because they were trying to find the person who was just perfectly content, just as happy as possible. And he said, well, yes, it would make me a good bit happier if I was to be knighted, which is like a sort of an honor that the king bestows on certain people. And they said, okay, well, this won't work then, because you're not perfectly happy already. So they went to find another person. They found a priest in a local church who was very, very excited and energetic, and he loved his job. He loved working with the congregation. He was really thrilled to be there. And they thought, oh, this seems like the right guy. Is there anything that would make you happier than you are now? And he said, well, I wouldn't say no to being the bishop. And so he wasn't the right guy. And this is the way that went on and on and on. They could not find somebody who was perfectly happy. Everybody had something that they wanted that they didn't have. They wanted a different job. They wanted a different home. They wanted a different person to love or to love them. They wanted more of something. They wanted less of something. No one was perfectly, contentedly happy. And they actually gave to be something. Yeah. So they, none of them were axolotls, and that's why they weren't perfectly happy. So they actually gave up, and they were on their way back to the castle to tell the king that their plan had not worked out. And while they were walking down the road, they passed a field, a farm field, and there was someone who was just singing a very, very upbeat tune to themselves as they were working, and they stopped, and they talked with her, and they said, well, tell us about your life. And she said, well, I keep this little farm, I plant some crops, I harvest them, I mostly eat what I harvest, a little bit of it I sell to make a little bit of cash to spend on other things that I can't grow for myself. And she had this big smile on her face the whole time she was explaining this. And they said, well, but it must be hard work. I mean, farming is hard work. And she said, well, yeah, it's work, sure, but it's a nice experience to get to watch things grow. And, my children help out with the work. It's not all just me. And they said, well, would you like to have a larger farm? Wouldn't that make you happier than you are now? And she said, no. Too much work on a larger farm. I don't want to do all that. This is just the right amount for me. Just the right amount for me to do. And by the end of the conversation, the people who've been sent by the king to find a perfectly happy person were like, this is it. This is the perfectly happy person. They asked her point blank, is there anything that you wish you had that you didn't? Or that you have that you wish you didn't have? And she said, no, it's just a pretty good life here. So they said, okay, here's the situation. The prince is very sad. We know we need to find a happy man's shirt in order to make him happy. So, can we get a shirt from you? And you know what she said? She looked down at her very simple but nice dress and said, I don't own any shirts. So the group of advisors went all the way back to the king, and they said, you know what they said to him? They said, we think that the plan is a good one. The prince needs to wear the shirt of a happy man, which means he needs to make a shirt for himself that will make him happy. And so that's what they said about doing. What do we think of this story? Any thoughts, responses? Well, yes, but the idea is that by making a shirt that would suit him, perhaps he could become happy instead. Thank you for listening to my story. I greatly appreciate it. And now it is time for you to go wheresoever you are going next.
Let's sing The Children on Their Way with hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. If you know this song, we're going to sing it as a round. We'll sing it one time all the way through, and then we'll have this half start and this half follow. I'll bring you in so you know what to do. Let's rise in body and or in spirit. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will hold this hand. I know this rose will hold this hand. I know this rose will burn away. I know
world is loud. The part of our planet that most human beings live on, the top surface of the Earth's crust, is full of noise. The sounds of wind and water, of animals moving about and calling to each other, the innumerable sounds created by human beings and all of our artifice. However, out beyond our planet's atmosphere, into the vast gaps between the stars, which compose most of the cubic footage of the cosmos, it is a different story. Waves and particles still fly about. It is beautifully, mysteriously complicated up there. But the human ear is evolved for our environment down here, such that there is very little for us to literally hear in space. In a sense, the world is loud, but the universe is quiet. So now, in order that we might commune for a time with that vast cosmic silence, let us spend this moment together, resting in reverent quiet. Amen. I want to start by telling you about a toad, the giant neotropical or cane toad, to be specific. It is a decently large type of toad, about 5 or so inches around on average. It's poisonous, but remember, poisonous is the less dangerous of poisonous versus venomous, so it's not really that worrisome. You're fine as long as you don't eat or lick one. Like pretty much all toads and frogs, it eats insects. And at some point, somebody noticed that this particular type of toad was particularly good at eating the sorts of insects who are themselves particularly good at eating sugarcane. Those insects pose a major concern for people who farm sugarcane. So more than once, folks have tried out importing cane toads to places where sugarcane is farmed. The toads are native to the wetlands of southern, central, and northern South America, but there was a time when sugarcane production was one of the major industries along the coast of northern Australia. So someone thought it would be a good idea to bring a whole bunch of cane toads to the other side of the globe to see if they would eat the cane beetles. Really imaginative naming pattern here, huh? Those cane beetles which were destroying the crops. Once introduced in significant numbers, the cane toads did very well for themselves in Australia. They found plenty of food, a comfortable environment, and no natural predators. Cane toads are poisonous, remember? And the animals native to Australia were neither accustomed nor adapted to their particular poison. The cane toad population exploded. It is still exploding today as parts of Australia remain, in certain seasons, overrun with large poisonous toads who are so unafraid of predators that they routinely plant themselves unmoving on sidewalks and roads. They also poison native wildlife, and occasionally their population can erupt so badly as to overwhelm and clog streams and waterways. As for the cane beetles that they were introduced in order to eradicate, the toads had much less luck there. You see, the cane beetle lives up at the top of the sugar cane, eating its leaves, whereas cane toads like to live on the ground and are not very good at climbing. The intention behind bringing the cane toad to Australia was to protect sugarcane crops. The effect was something entirely different. Actions, people, and institutions must be judged not by their intentions, but also by their effects. Not only by their intentions, but also by their effects. In the Christian tradition, there is a long-standing debate. It actually plays out back and forth in the Christian Bible in several places over salvation by faith versus salvation by acts. Basically, whether the goodness of a life is determined by their belief in God and other elements of Christian doctrine, or whether goodness is a matter of what a person does, both acts of religious worship and acts of human service. In our history as Unitarian Universalists, we have sometimes been known for a third choice: salvation by character. And the emphasis from the beginning of the phrase, and only more so over the many years that have followed, was on character more than salvation, since our forebears were generally unconcerned about getting into heaven, much more preoccupied with how to heal and nurture this world and us in it. One of the chief functions of religion, in the understanding of our theological ancestors, in my own as well, is to improve our character, to help us become more virtuous in how we think and feel and in the choices we make in living our lives. The famously wordy Unitarian Universalist thinker, James Luther Adams, in one of his rare moments of easy quotability, said, "Church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human." But emphasizing character doesn't necessarily put us on one side or the other of intent versus effect. One could measure character by the quality of a person's intentions, or by total effects of their actions, or by a combination of the two. Instead, I believe that the deep value of focusing on the actual effects of the lives that we lead, the choices we make, and the institutions we serve, that Adams pointed out, comes from our devotion to reason. Now here, I do not mean a cold, unfeeling, analytical callousness, although that is a trap that reason, when severed from human emotion and moral principle, can fall into. I mean our belief that our capacity as humans to gather evidence, test theories, and draw conclusions is a sacred faculty. Both our Unitarian and our Universalist ancestors believed that reason was essential to the practice and evolution of religion, rather than being its adversary or counterweight. And it's simply inescapable that the effects of an action are more knowable when judging after the fact than the intents behind it were. If I smack my friend in the nose, he and I are both aware that that happened. Only I can say for sure that my intention was to swat the bee that had landed there a moment before. Effects can be known publicly. Intentions can only be known privately. In fact, modern neuroscience argues more and more that we are not even safe in assuming that we truly know our own intentions privately. The decisions that we make seem often to be emotional or instinctual, and it is really only after we have made them that our brains devise for us an explanation based on the conscious weighing of the options, which makes judging a decision by the intention behind it even harder to pin down. In the Gospel according to Matthew, as part of the Sermon on the Mount, these words are attributed to the teacher Jesus. "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them." Judging from our effects is judging from our fruits. Of course, the teacher here seems to be getting into an odd essentialism about trees and fruit. It is far from the case, in my experience, that a good tree cannot bear bad fruit. But the core lesson stands. As the poet and activist Maya Angelou famously said to Oprah Winfrey, "When people show you who they are, why don't you believe them?" In one episode of TV's The Simpsons, the home of polite, mild-mannered Simpsons neighbor Ned Flanders and his family is destroyed in a freak storm. So the Simpsons and many of their friends determined to do something about it. They band together and rebuild the ruined house. It is a tremendous act of generosity and kindness, and it also comes with some serious flaws. The quality of the work is not up to code. Cracks are already forming, nails stick out of walls. There is a toilet in the kitchen installed next to the refrigerator because it was too heavy to carry up the stairs. The upstairs hallway gets progressively smaller and smaller, like something out of a fun house. And the only room with electricity has too much of it. That ominous warning is never explored, but just standing outside the room with the door closed is enough to make every hair on Ned's body stand on end. When the entire structure collapses at the end of the tour, the normally perfectly calm Ned blows his top and calls his would-be benefactors morons. Hurt by the outburst, Marge Simpson offers the defense that they meant well. But as Ned says, he and his family can't live in good intentions. Intent is a poor defense, especially when real harm has been done. Because, well, it ignores the effect. If I don't watch where I'm going and I step on your foot, it doesn't matter that I didn't have any intention to hurt you. You still were hurt. It still warrants an apology. Focusing on intent also makes the person who did the harm, however accidentally, the center of the conversation. The subject is their experience, their thoughts and feelings, not the experiences, the thoughts, or feelings of the other person or people who actually had to endure the consequences of the choices that they made. It's because of this centering issue that the intent defense is so frequently shows up in matters of privilege and social advantage. When a white person says something that is casually racist, or a man does something that is casually sexist, if this gets pointed out by a woman or a person of color or anyone who just notices the wrong and doesn't want to simply accept it, frequently the person feeling called out will turn it into a debate about their intent. Every time someone powerful is caught on tape saying something disdainful about people of color or any other marginalized group, every time that someone famous gets caught making a foul joke or an inappropriate advance, they inevitably try to steer the media conversation to an essentialism about who they are inside. Variations include the black friend defense, or the news conference where the wife of an embattled man must stand next to him to show that he is somehow too good of a guy to give credit to the allegations at hand. But this strategy is not only for the powerful and the famous, whom, I confess, I am rarely inclined to give the benefit of the doubt anyway. The intention defense is seductive for all of us in any situation where we've hurt another person, because it allows us to quickly and cleanly let ourselves off the hook. I don't mean that we're all scheming up ways to get away with hurting other people. We might not reach for this moral out consciously. But here I am literally sinking into the quagmire of intention while trying to explain what a quagmire arguing about intention is in the first place. So let me return to a clear point that needs saying. The reality of racism isn't created only by the most overt, self-consciously hateful acts of bigotry. The reality of sexism doesn't exist solely because of the most egregious acts of gender-based violence. The architecture of oppression is also built through countless smaller acts of indifference or ignorance that still diminish the possibilities for and denigrate the humanity of people with less social standing and cultural power. And any other harm that we might do, whether it's linked to a larger system of oppression or not, we still have some moral responsibility for, intentional or otherwise. Several years ago, I had the privilege to attend a series of lectures by Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi. May the memory of the righteous be a blessing. Reb Zalman, a rabbi generally understood as the foundational inspiration for the renewal branch of Judaism, devoted much of his long life to interreligious dialogue. Reb Zalman famously took part in a conversation between Buddhist and Jewish leaders that was convened by the Dalai Lama to try to glean wisdom on how to maintain a religion and a community in exile and diaspora. And the lectures that I heard Zalman give were hosted in a Muslim house of worship organized by a Unitarian Universalist theological school. So different religions talking to each other was a major theme in the man's life. And he pointed in those lectures to a pervasive problem in the way that people of one faith often criticize members of another faith. He described it as, look how good my ought is. See how lousy your is. In explaining the beauty and wisdom of their own tradition, a practitioner naturally focuses on the high ideals and noble aspirations of their faith. But when comparing theirs to the faiths of others, The tendency is to focus on the faults and failures of other traditions in practice. This is basically intent versus effect on a grand scale. To get beyond this self-serving, other-diminishing perspective in the worlds of religion and of politics and culture, as well as in our own one-to-one relationships, we need to give value and consideration both to intention and to the effect that results from it. To act and judge ourselves by our actions, by their effects. One stanza from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, A Psalm of Life, reads, "Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within, and God o'erhead." When the effects of our actions are helpful and life-giving, credit is deserved for others or for ourselves. When the effects are harmful, amends must be made, an apology expressed. The intent that drove the choice doesn't change either of these requirements, but it does still matter. As the Indian revolutionary and spiritual leader Mahatma Gandhi said, "A man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." Something that I believe is true for people of all genders as much as it is for those of us who use male pronouns. We know, or at least we know best, the intention behind our own actions. And they can only improve in our character with them if we are first honest with ourselves about what motivates us, and then fearless and determined in our effort to improve our intentions in pursuit of having better effects.
Thank you for that wonderful music. We invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which supports the ongoing work of this community. There are multiple ways to share your gifts this morning. Baskets now being passed here in the auditorium for cash or checks, or as you will see on the screen, you can donate directly to our website, directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will find our text to give information there as well. We thank you for this generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
Each week we gather, bringing with us the joys and losses of our days. We hold our own pain and celebration together with those of the ones we love. We share these here, knowing that they are held gently, in care, in support, and in love. One of us lights a candle this morning with a three-part hope. These three parts being that we may be motivated to care about our Mother Earth, our one and only home. That anyone experiencing gender dysphoria may transition and feel at home in their mind and their body, and that our beautiful country can be fixed by ourselves and our leaders, and that we will make the right choices for America. We light a candle as well for all those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. We light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world. Fervently we yearn for peace here at home and around the globe. And we light a candle for all those joys and sorrows, hopes and dreams which remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. I invite you now to turn with me both inward and outward as we enter together into an attitude of meditation and of prayer with these words from Virginia Knowles. Spirit of creative good, be with us when we are afraid. Grant us the courage to do what we have to do. Grant us the peace that passes understanding. When we fail to find courage or peace, may we find compassion for our human siblings who also fail. May we sometimes win the prizes that we fight for, and may we then know both pride and compassion. May we be open to the candor of old age and to the freshness of childhood. May we give good memories. May we receive good memories. May we have faith, O God. Be merciful to us and help us to be merciful to one another and to ourselves. Amen.
There is love holding us. There is a love holding all that we are. There is a love holding all we rest in this love. Now I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit to sing together our closing hymn, number 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty. Faith of the larger liberty, source of the
which is worthy of doing, create with your hands. That which is worthy of repeating, speak with a clear voice. That which is worthy of remembering, hold in your hearts. And that which is worthy of living, go and live it now. Blessed be. Go in peace, and please be at rest for the postlude.